For a long time, the Trompowsky Opening was something that I enjoyed playing, and it gave me problems when I was playing against it. It's definitely a creativity-based opening, and it's quite interesting to play because you can get, say, non-standard positions. But as recently as my Benoni text on Chessable, I started thinking, what's a practical way to handle this? Because I don't want to give the Trompowsky player what they want, which is a creative and interesting game. I want to kind of stifle the creativity and play on what we're looking to play against, and that's an immediate imbalance. And for years, this was considered to be one of the worst options for black because you're just giving white what they want. The ability to double the pawns. Well, what are we getting? We get the bishop pair, they get the knight pair. And in countless Trompowsky books, they would reference the game between Adams and Karpov, I believe, from early 90s Linares, where Adams runs a clinic in exactly how to play the position. But Kasparov misplaced pieces, which is why he had a bad game there. So this was repeated and repeated and repeated, but Gawain Jones, in his lifetime repertoire on the King's Indian defense, shows this idea, and I had similar analysis in my Benoni text. So the main theme that you're looking for here is use the bishops. And do not allow a position where you're going to have an isolated pawn on d5. So say, for instance, if white plays g3, if we were to allow this position, this is almost resignation, because white can build up almost every piece on this now. So let's say bishop g2, knight c3, and white can put a knight on f4 and queen on b3, and there's such beautiful harmony in white's position. So this is what we must avoid. So now that we understand this, as I'm playing against a 2600 rated opponent in Blitz, they clearly know what they're doing in this type of position. Goes knight f3, I go d5, e3, and misplacing pieces is what I was accusing Kasparov of doing in that game, and it's very natural to place this bishop on g7, because as a King's Indian and Grunfeld and Benoni player, we love placing the bishop there. But that has been the classical problem with this line in the Trompowsky, because what is that bishop going to do in the long term? We need to swap gears and place that bishop on a more active and better square. c4. Alarm bells should go off for you. This is what I like to term as a memory marker in my opening text. I say, okay, what are we trying to avoid? An isolated pawn on d5. So what do we need to do when we see c4? Get rid of it. No chance of an isolated pawn now. And after takes, all right, c6. We're going to get control over some key squares. Very nice. What we need to be doing. Knight c3. Okay, let's tuck the nugget away. King g7. I'm just being solid and safe. Now rook c1. So where's white's plan in the position? This is a good place to start from, because I look at the potential of black's position getting better and better here versus white overpressing from this position. I see the bishop pair, and I know as the position opens up, that's going to be favorable for me. So the two places where white could make a change in the pawn structure would be from the center with the e-pawn or with the b-pawn in the future. I play f5, say, okay, you gave away the bishop pair in order to double my pawns. So are you going to play e4 at some point, giving yourself an isolated pawn, allowing me to trade this off? This is going to be pretty much nothing but benefits for me. So let's throw that move in. Not going to hurt anything. After g3, let's get our knight to a decent square, shall we? Eyeing potential breaks. And I'm happy to see this pawn go into a3 because that's going to be a potential target later. And after b4, I was going on, because this was a blitz game, kind of rote memory. I remembered in my notes, in the Benoni text, the queen's on e7, the bishop's on d7, and then we look to start chipping away by considering moves like a5. But that was in a similar position where a rook was still on a1, protecting that pawn. You ask the question, what is the most forcing and aggressive move here? Hopefully you find the best move, which is a5, because there's no good way to really play against the tension that black has here, and I can continue to add pressure if need be. So missed an opportunity here. Hopefully you found it. You're following along with the game and actively thinking and not just passively watching. To get something out of watching YouTube content from anybody, be trying to figure it out like you would in a real game. Pause the video every now and then. I am not going anywhere, I promise. So queen e7 was what I played. And it's interesting because after queen b3, I should still be thinking, hey, a5, because it's still correct. But I went knight e4. And this next move really kind of cemented, I'm doing really well here. My opponent decided to capture my knight. He should be looking to mix it up with d5. And after knight b5, this would be a roughly balanced position where white's gotten rid of my bishop pair. I still have the double pawn, but I've blockaded their d5 pawn, which could potentially become weak. It's hard to provide more support for it. So, equal. But after knight takes e4, now a new phase of the game begins where I have no deficiencies and can really press. So how can I make the most out of my position? Well, first I go bishop h3 because development and time, I get some momentum going with this. So this is a critical moment. I missed a very nice idea here that I want to see if the viewer can find. So take your time and try to get the absolute most out of the position. Use that thinking process of compare 3 moves, start with the most aggressive ones, and work your way down. And think about your long-term goals in the position. Are we playing on the queen side? Are we playing in the center? Are we playing on the king side? Why? What's the goal with the bishop pair? Hopefully that swirl of questions and breaking it down, you came to a plan that I missed. All right, so gave you time to pause the video if you're one of those folks that are working along with us. Best was not f5, what I played in the game. You're on the right track, you're playing on the right side of the board, you want a king side attack, but f5 has a limitation that it's going to force us to trade, essentially. I want to keep the bishop pair. Better is b5. Because now, whether the bishop goes to f1 or e2, I can come back with the bishop, cement the structure, and then play, if I could arrows, then play for an attack. And your hands are free to just go completely at the opponent here. b5 is a move that is easily going to get 1 exclam. If you found it with this kind of follow-up rerouting idea, that's master level. Very good work there. So beyond my capability to find in the blitz game. I at least can say I was on the right track and going, oh, f5, I need to be attacking on this side of the board, but it's very unsophisticated caveman style of let's attack, let's just go for it. But yeah, that rerouting to keep the bishop pair, uncoordinate the opponent's pieces, and get a free attack, everything in the position. So after f5, bishop f1 was played. I take, and then I say, hey, you wouldn't mind if I could go ahead and play h4 and utilize this open h file, would you? He goes, no, I'm stopping you. And this is where I've seen a lot of my students make a mistake, because they look at this position and go, it's locked up now. There's nothing I can do over here. And I'm worried that this knight is now going to get really strong hopping in at some point on e5. Well, what was the theme? What were we playing for? Kingside attack. So what stops us from going g5? Well, that's my cover. If you don't make the attack work, you're probably worse. So this is the only option. You have to go for it. After takes, the attack looks pretty straightforward now. We got a queen on a very aggressive square, eyeing the king. I've got ideas like h4, love to swing the rook over at a key moment. So king g2. All right, that doesn't stop me from playing h4. Let's press the attack. Rook g1. What's the most forcing move? What's the most aggressive move? The capture. Let's go for it. Now knight f1. And a little bit of care is needed here. If we take, we could end up in some sort of problem once the king moves where our queen is tethered to our king, and I don't want to lose material. So how can we continue to press the attack and get the absolute most out of our position? Well, hopefully you looked at f4. And after pawn takes, I played rook takes. So, question in between move. If white plays queen takes g3 in order to try to trade queens, what's the best move for black? Rook g4 with the pin, and this is devastating. In the game, my opponent played knight takes g3. So what is the best path forward? There's a couple of good moves to consider here, but being a practical chess player, I said to myself, I've got someone not working. Invite everybody to the party. I was taught that when I was young, and it still works today. So now every piece is involved in the attack, but look at the lack of coordination that white's pieces have. Rook c2, covering the f-pawn. All right, we're getting ready for the final breakthrough to win this game. Find a few more accurate, aggressive moves, and you get the full point. So where's the weak point? That's the remaining cover of the king. So sacrificing on f2 isn't going to be enough because of the lateral defense of the queen on the knight. So, remove a defender. So the queen is attacking the bishop. Many players have that immediate reaction, oh, I'm being attacked, defense. Stop. Stop with a defensive mindset first. You had something in mind that was aggressive. First and foremost, look at the aggressive ideas, and then, and only then, if the aggressive ideas don't work, make a defensive move like defending the bishop. Black to play and win here. So, try to see the rest of the game or a point where white is going to resign. You had two different options here, which is why I kind of like this puzzle too. In the main game, I played rook takes f2. If you played rook takes g3, there's nothing wrong with that. Wow, lost my voice a little bit there, excuse me. Queen takes. Oh no, my queen. But, oh no, your king, I guess? Rook takes h2. And in the game, I played rook takes f2, which has the same sort of flavor, where all they have left is blocking. And even though the queen is pinned, you get the aesthetically pleasing checkmate. So hopefully you enjoyed this on the Trompowsky, and if you'd like to know more on really hammering the sidelines for knight f6 and g6, whether you're a King's Indian, a Grunfeld, Benoni player, even Binko Gambit, the sidelines that I had in my Benoni course on Chessable, my personal repertoire. It's the home cooking, if you will. And those lines are in the book. What I'm most proud of are the work on the sidelines. And that's what you face most often in the ascent to, say, 2200. Too often, I face the London, the Trompowsky, the Collie, and I take very special interest in making sure there's no drawish lines, that black can keep as many pieces on the board as possible while not taking too many risks, and you can fight for a win like you saw in this game. So if you enjoyed this, take a look at the Benoni course. You might enjoy that as well. Thanks for tuning in. Like and subscribe.